Thank you. Hinari, kia ora tātou. Me mai haramai, ki tēnei hui o tātou. Neki, ka whakanui ake tēnei kaupapa ke mui a tātou. No reira rā, i te timatanga o tēnei o tātou nei hui, ka wāti te rākau. Kia koe, uncle, nā hau, hai puta te aroa o te atua ke runga ki tēnei o tātou nei hui. Kia ora rā.
Very good. Thank you. Kei a koe te whiri, Kāli. Kei te whakamoi miti ki tō tātou matanui te rangi. Kei te tūmai ki te mihi ki a koe. Kei te arawhata, ka homai te wairua ki te atua. Kei te runga rawa. Nāne homai, nāne e tango. E Gloria tuinga tapu i ngā wā katoa. Tēnei o te hokai nei, aku tapu ai. Te hokai nuku ko te hokai rangi. Ko te hokai au tūpuna tāne nui ara. Hei te piki ai ki te rangi tūhaha i ngā tihi o ngā manona. I roko hina atu rānei i matua kore anake. Hei te piki ai ki te kete o te wānanga. Te kete tūuri ko te kete tūatea. I te kete arunu. Ka tiri tiri a ka poupou a ko papatūnuku. Ka poto mai te Heretaunga. I te whai au, ki te au marama. Ara mai te toki. Haumi e, hui e. Ke te tūmai ki tēnei te mihi mo tēnei o ngā mate o te tau o te marama. O te wiki o te rānei. Rei ngā mate, oki oki, whakatāna, moi mai. Uri noa, tēnā koutou te iwi, kua tāma. Nau mai hara mai koutou. Mauria mai ki tēnei tō koutou whakaro, e api hetia ki nei, ki tēnei te kaupapa mo tēnei rā. Haru mai koutou, haru mai ngā marae maha o Heretaunga, o te noa ki ahuriri mai atu ki Heretaunga ararau, Heretaunga hautanui, Heretaunga haro o te kahu, Heretaunga Takoto. No mai haru mai koutou. E mihi kau ana mo tēnei ngā kaunihera, mo tēnei ki a koe Sandra, ke te mihi ki a koe, ko pe tēnei koutou katoa, Nigel, ki a koutou. E te mihi mo tēnei tō tātou chairmana, ko Rāpana, e tangata mo tēnei, e whakahui hui, e tai hoa, kei tēnei, kāre e raru, ko hui tēnei, mo tēnei ki a koe Rāpana, kei te mihi ki a koe. Kaurero, ko hui tēnei, ka haere ki tēnei ngā hui mo tēnei ra. E hui, ko hui tēnei te kaupapa, mo tēnei rā. E te kotahi mo tēnei hei whakaro, kotahi tata, ki runga i te rangi Māori, ko koe tēnei e ngā whakaro, ka putu ki tēnei te hui, e pai ki tēnei tangi, kei te tūmai, e whakare kōrero, ki roto tēnei te kaupapa mo tēnei wā. E inoi mo tēnei te atua, e mana ki tanga, ko tātou hui, mo tēnei wā. No mai har mo tēnei koutou. Ki runga mo tēnei, o tātou, mahi, ko tēnei te rōpū mo tēnei te Māori, kei te tūnga te Standing Committee mo tēnei wa. Kei a koe mo tēnei hemi, kei a koe te dākuta, ko koe tēnei te tangata mo tēnei, runga nui mo tēnei mata, e hui ki tēnei te tangata, haruma, whakapiri ki tēnei kōrero, mo tēnei wa. Nō reira, ko te mihi te koutou, tēnā koutou, kia ora papa, tēnā koutou katoa.
Pine te kura, hau te kura, whanake te kura e awarua, ko te kura nui, ko te kura roa, ko te kura o ka whitina tuhai po. E nei te tira hau, e nei hara mai nei, o te umurangi, nā te whatui a piti, nau mai e tawa, ki te tai au nei. Kia whakanunu a koe, ki te kai katoa, i te tūmata puru, i te tara onga, nā kai hora e nā hau e kupe, i wai hoi te ao nei. Eke ake kake ake, i te toe huarewa, te ara o ka whaki, i piki ai ki runga, i roko i nā tura, mai kuku mākaka, a pai o maui, e wahai pamai, takua i ne purotu, taku tāne purotu, kōrua ko te kauē.
Kia ora papa, ki tēnei, te kīnaki mo tēnei tō papa, ki puna, a te whati apiti. Ko koe tēnei e ngā le o haki o whati apiti. Ko haere koe koutou ki te tuara ki o tūpuna. Ko kai koe ki te whetu o tarangi. If we travel on the back of our ancestors, we will reap the treasures of the heavens. Ka pai, Sandra? Ka pai.
Kia ora tātou. Tautoko nā kōrero ki a koe e tiari, anō ki a koe Uncle Jerry, nā hau i whakatoa nā kākano, ki a pua wai, me ki nā mea pai, o tēnei au tātou nei hui. Nō reira, kia ora, welcome everybody to this special meeting of our Māori Joint Committee. So let's get things underway. Are there any apologies?
Apologise for Councillor Holly late. He'll be here, but we're on the late side.
Kia ora, can we receive that? Nari? The Mayoress? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Anyone not? Thank you. The minutes of our meeting held on the conflicts of interest. Jumped again. Now, I understand there's some advice to councillors regarding whether you can vote around that. And I guess from the committee's perspective, when we do vote, then the decision is yours to choose whether you vote or not on the basis of that information or opinion that you've received. So other than that, are there any other conflicts of interest that need to be declared?
one, Mr Chairman, is that as the co-chair of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, we're in the same process ourselves in regards to the question around Māori wards, establishment of Māori wards. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Our constitutional expert, is that a conflict of interest? Thank you, Mike. Okay, so there's no conflicts to declare. Confirmation of the minutes that have previously been circulated. We moved it there. Henare, thank you. And Māori, all those in favour, please say aye. 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 Anyone not? Thank you. All right. Kaupapa of the day. The creation of Māori wards in the Hastings district for the 2002 local authority triennial elections. Now, Jackie, you're going to lead us through. I'll start the conversation.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Ko Jackie Evans aho. As you can tell from my accent, I'm not from here. My bones are in the UK, but I've lived here for nearly 10 years and consider it to be my home. I'm going to take you briefly through the report, but I'll take the report as read. And before I hand back to the chair, I'd just like to highlight a couple of issues. The choice before you today is straightforward, and that is whether to recommend to the council the establishment of Māori wards in Hastings district in time for the 2022 elections, or wait until 2025. If you decided to wait until 2025, status quo prevails and no further action would be required at this time. However, if you want to ask the council to establish Māori wards in time for 2022 elections, some things need to be put in place very quickly indeed. The report sets out in detail the steps and the timeline to achieve this aim. The legal deadline for the decision is exactly 1 calendar month away. That's the 21st of May. The decision to establish Māori wards cannot be reversed at least for two elections at least, so for 6 years. It's an irreversible decision. And the letter of and intent of the law is crystal clear. This is a significant decision for the council and our community. For that reason, the council has to engage with the community on their views and preferences prior to reaching a decision. So that explains the timeline in this report. Today, you will decide on a directive, and if you wish Māori wards to be an objective in the 2022 elections, tomorrow we need to hold an emergency council meeting to commence community engagement starting on this Friday. And that consultation period will last until the 12th of May. Following that, we will need to hold an extraordinary council meeting on the 18th of May to make a final decision in advance of the 21st of May deadline set by the legislation. Following that, this decision would trigger a full representation review, and the representation review will consider the makeup of the wards, and that will include Māori wards in Hastings district. The process, implications and timeline for the representation review are set out in detail in the report. I'm happy to answer questions at any time, but I'll hand back to the chair.
Thank you, Jackie. Well, kia ora tātou. I'm just going to make some introductory sort of comments and then happy to hand it over to members to share their views. You know, as chairman of this committee, and I've been here for a few triennium, and this has been a long journey. And back in 2014, as laid out in the paper, the issue of Māori wards was raised then. So this is not a new conversation. This is a conversation that's been evolving over time. And in 2017, we revisited with a decision in 2019 where this committee, and there was some debate that went on about whether or not we would go with Māori wards, and that was when the polling provision was still part of the Act. Consequently, we recommended that have Māori wards subject to but without the polling provisions. And having said that, Nanaya and her work that she was doing in Wellington reviewed the Act, made the changes, and the polling provision has been removed. Consequently, that brought back a recommendation and the considerations and the deliberations that were made in 2019 to bring them live again. And in a retreat that the committee had, again, the debate was revisited, and we requested that the matter be dealt with urgency, and that the council and its, and I say leadership, and I pay tribute to that leadership, Sandra and other councillors sitting around the table, firstly for having traversed the journey with us, and then to have the bravery to acknowledge what the committee wanted in terms of bringing Māori wards, or having that debate around Māori wards, and to put a time frame within the next month or so to make that a reality. Now, this morning, I went along with Mary's Wise and Steph to a hui where they had decided to, well, initially been recommended by their Māori committee, and I hope I'm not out of turn in terms of saying that, but where their Māori committee hadn't recommended that they proceed with Māori wards, or they proceed in 2025 because it potentially could be too rushed. And maybe some of the other members will talk to that. But what was expressed at that hui was the voice of our people, of the whānau, the hapu, the iwi, in terms of a long journey of trying to ensure that we have a Māori voice in the decision-making forums, and in this case, with the local councils. So I know each of the councils are trying to reconcile how that could be done. But again, I reiterate that the leadership that I've seen from Hastings District, and I have no qualms in saying that around involving Māori in the decision making. Yes, we have some way to go. Yes, there are ups and downs along the way. But you know, the reality is that we're sitting here today at another momentous occasion, as Henry said, to celebrate what we believe will be in the best interest of Hastings District. So having said that, I'll hand it over to the members for those who want to make comment, noting that whoever's watching on the live stream and paying interest in terms of you know, this decision, because it is of national interest to see how the various authorities, councils choose to utilise the revision in the legislation. So we believe it's a positive move, and we're hoping that the council, when they do meet, will similarly share that view. So, kia koutou, e hoa ma, he wā kia kūrero.
Kia ora, Mr. Chairman. Ka mihi kia koutou, ngā marae, ngā hapu. Nau mai hara mai ki tēnei aiahi, ki te whakarongo, ki te titiro mai, i nei kōrero he pānga ki tēnei kaupapa. Te whakamana o te reo o tātou whānau, o tātou hapu i rungi i tēnei tēpu. Tēnei taku mihi ki a koutou. Mihi ki a koe, Charlie, I whakatuwhera tātou hui I tēnei wā. I have to agree with your comments, Mr. Chairman. For me, this conversation is actually about leadership. And not so much the leadership from our Māori community, because we have actually debated, consented and corridored about this for over a number of years, at least half a dozen years. And as recently as in regards to Hawke's Bay Regional Council, who are also going through the same process themselves, and are currently are calling for submissions. So I had the opportunity to just get an update of where those submissions were in regards to Hawke's Bay Regional Council. And up to lunchtime, they had 718 submissions lodged. 614 of those were in favour, 100 opposed. That's 85.5% in favour of the establishment of Māori wards. So the voice and the feelings of Māori are been well and truly demonstrated. To the point, to be quite honest, we're kind of over being asked this question. No. Our feelings in regards to this kaupapa are well known. I think we've fully documented it, and this is just from a Heretaunga perspective. We have canvassed our people numerous of times. We have called numerous public hui. It really comes down to how much longer must we continue to give mana to our whakaaro and where we would like to see the direction go. This morning, I looked at the terms of reference of this committee, because at this point in time, this committee is your reference to your so-called partnership with Māori. And although I congratulate Hastings City Council on the progress that it has made in regards to wanting to form a strong partnership, when I look at our terms of reference, it kind of doesn't quite get there fully. You've kind of got to the 90-yard mark, the 90-metre mark, and you've stopped the race there. We're kind of asking you to go to the finish line. We need you to go to the finish line. Not just for us, not just for our Māori community, but for the whole community. Aotearoa has changed. We just need to turn on our TVs, turn on our national radio station, and the amount of reo we are getting across those mediums. When I was a child, there was only one Māori voice on there, and I think it was Marama Stevens. Beautiful English, beautiful English. Pronunciation was fantastic. But now we've seen reo become part of the mainstay of the fabric of Aotearoa of New Zealand. We've seen our children in our mokopuna who go to school and te reo is part of their daily curriculum. That was not the case for me and many of my age group. We never ever got that. So, as a country, we are changing. We are moving towards encompassing what partnership should actually look like. When I see terms in our terms of reference, such as towards establishing and maintaining processes that provide opportunity for Māori to contribute, we're past being given the opportunity. That's not partnership. That's just us being asked to contribute. That is us having to give comment to where you, as council, believe the plan, the direction should be going. We're contributing to your thoughts, to your conversation. That's what consultation means. We're kind of over it. After 181 years since the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi, we are over it. We need you to understand what partnership means. It is time for our voice to come to the table, not just as advisors, but that we can sit here in our own mana, that we can actually be free to express the views of Māoridom and not feel as though we have to curtail what we say. I salute our Māori, our Māori councillors over the years who have sat at this table, right back to Bob Tim. I've always been proud of the fact that we have had Māori sitting here, but I've also been saddened because I've also known that they have never been freely exposed to give their views purely from the perspective of Māori, that they have sat here representing their constituency. And like all good governors, they have done that. They have sat here representing the whole of the community. Māori Wards gives us the opportunity to express our views purely from a point of view in Māori. And we don't have to feel as though we are somehow not fulfilling our obligations to the whole of our community or the whole of our constituency. Having Māori Wards frees us from that. It allows us to input fully from that perspective. It also allows the voices from our whānau, our hapu and our marae to come to the table unrestricted, that we can give full voice and full whakaaro and āhuatanga and wairua to their views and thoughts. It is timely, but we're not the decision makers. We are not the decision makers. It is you, council, who are the decision makers, councillors. We need you to step up and be leaders. We need you to show courage. We understand that this is not an easy question, and that it has, establishment of Māori Wards does have its drawbacks, even for us. I don't sit here and say that we're 110% behind this, because we're not. We have some reservations about this as well. Some of us feel it doesn't go far enough. Some feel it goes too far. Some feel we shouldn't even be participating in this. So don't feel as though that we are 110% behind us. We have our reservations. But for us, it is not just a question of sitting at this table. It is about recognition. It's about understanding who we are, giving respect to the Treaty of Waitangi. More importantly, giving respect to our hapu, to our iwi, because it's about time that we were given that respect at this table, not only at this table, but throughout the country. I'd like to recognise Wairoa District Council, who made this decision 3 years ago. And not only did they have 3 Māori representatives to step forward in regards to their Māori ward space, but they had 2 more that actually came through the general wards. So it's not as though we are restricting the input or the pathway for Māori to sit at this table. We're not. All we are saying is, please show the respect for what our tipuna did 181 years ago and what they believe they were signing up for. We have waited a long time. I certainly hope we don't have to wait a further 6 years. Because if it isn't now, when is it to be? If after 181 years, now is not the time, when will the time be? So for our councillors, there's nowhere else to go. That decision sits on your shoulders. And that decision, more than likely, is going to start tomorrow. At the Regional Council, I spoke about a whānau member from Pakipaki, Hine Wehi Mohi, who in 1988 stood on Twickenham Park to sing the national anthem at the semi-finals for the World Cup. She had a decision that day. What verse and what language would she sing our national anthem in? Would she have the courage to start that national anthem off in Māori? Never been done at a international rugby match, let alone on live TV. I often ask myself, if she had chosen to sing the status quo, the English language, where would we be as a country today? I look at the pushback she received from doing that action. But that action very, very quickly died out. In the space of 3 or 4 months, we had quite gladly embraced the anthem being sung in both languages. So from being criticised one day to be embraced the next. She was embraced not because she sung it in Reo, but for her leadership, for her courage to push back against the status quo. And this is what we're asking of you. Push back against the status quo. 181 years is long enough. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora.
Is there any other?
A tēnā rā koutou i te kuro matua me te kai kaunihira hoki. Ko tane i nā hau, he uri ahau ngā te kahungunu, ka kōrero ahau ki te tautoko te Māori Wards, hei whakamana te whenua mai kei raro i te kurawai o te taiwhenua o te Panganui Aorotu. Nō reira, tēnā rā koutou katoa. Can I firstly acknowledge our people that are here today, who the Takoto no Māori Standing Committee represent and speak on behalf of. Our whānau, our hapu, our marae, our groups that are here today, my tai whenua chair, Hurireti, our board members, Peter, and my staff that are here, Chrissy Hape from Ngāti Kahungunu, and my dear friends Wairiki and Waiora. I also sit here to speak today on behalf of my sister Annie Aranui, who I know fully supported this process and this kaupapa. I commend our Mayor Sandra, CEO Nigel, our councillors and the Hastings District Council for being bold and following a process to allow for the Local Electoral Act 2001 and amendments to be followed. This enables the Council to look at improving the democratic representation of Māori interests to ensure equity in representation and to provide a Māori voice in local decision making. This, as we know, has been made by the repeal of the provisions in the Local Electoral Act 2001 that relate to racist legislation of allowing polls on the establishment of Māori wards and constituencies, prohibition of binding council-initiated polls, and also allowing the establishment of a transition period ending on the 21st of May, as you've heard from Jackie. This will provide councils with a fresh opportunity to make decisions on Māori representation at the 2022 local elections. I sit here today as a treaty partner and as a representative of whānau hapu marae and Te Taiwhenua Te Whanganui Arotu. We are a partner to Te Riti o Waitangi, this country's founding document. Like Mike said, this is a no-brainer to us. Local councils have a responsibility to take appropriate account of the principles of the treaty and to maintain and improve opportunities for Māori to contribute to local government decision-making processes. The legislation's there, parts 2 and 6, provide principles and requirements for councils that are intended to facilitate participation by Māori in local government decision-making processes. Arguments about Māori political representation are not new to any of us. And we heard this morning at our meeting with the Napier City Council, we heard our chair, Hori Reti, talk about, we've been waiting, and I've heard Mike reiterate, we've been waiting for 181 years. This is not new to us. We're tired of this. Since the 1840s, our people have had their land taken by physical and legal force, have been punished with speaking our language, were imprisoned for practicing our culture and protecting our land, given no rights when they returned from fighting in wars for our country. They were excluded from a ballot system, allocating land to more than 9,000 non-Māori and very few Māori veterans, and made to live under a system of governance built and operated by the people who did this to us. A local councillor last week spoke of far too many Māori wanting their lives in, wasting their lives in prison, and how he was distressed that so many Māori are not enjoying all the great things life has to offer. He went on to talk about the failures by Māori being self-inflicted. I encourage this member to think long and hard about what he said and about how our people have been treated and how our people are still fighting to have equity and representation on councils. We want to take part in everything. We want to have a better future for our community, our whānau and our mokopuna. We want to work in partnership. We did not choose to have these disparities, and we are looking for you as councillors to truly partner, protect and ensure participation and the voice of our people is included. If we can for a moment imagine what life would be like if we had this parity and equity, this equality throughout all the systems and processes, including staff, committees, hearing panels and representation on councils, what a better world it would be. Our people are not only a community of interest or stakeholders, we are large contributors to the economy of Hastings. Our marae, our taiwhenua, our Ngāti Kahungunu iwi, our post-settlement governance entities all contribute, not only as significant ratepayers, but also as consumers and high users of many products and services the local Hastings economy offers. In the year 2525, which we heard Ngahiwi sing at the recent Futures Workshop, we had an opportunity to look at the vision for our community 30 and maybe 50 years on. A number of matters raised talked about partnerships and working together, as Mike has said. The recent Three Waters saw our cultural case as a point of difference. Tank, HPUDs, RMA reforms, housing developments, transitional housing, papakainga, water reforms, community development, social procurement opportunities are all areas that will be enriched by having an unapologetic Māori voice at the table. Māori wards do not take away anyone's rights. They provide an opportunity for councils to have the voice of Māori at the table. Councils all around us are voting yes. Māori wards are well on the way to becoming the norm. Tauranga, Taranaki, Tairāwhiti, Taupo and Hamilton are examples of this. Let us be an example of what a true treaty partnership looks like. We vote yes to partnerships, inclusiveness and diversity. Establishing Māori wards is positive and future focused. It enables us to right the wrongs of the past, to learn and to do what is the right thing to do. When our people went to war, and it's Anzac Day this week, when our people went to war to fight for our country, they paid the price of citizenship. This was a price we paid because full equality had yet to be won. This is our time as a community to do what is right. I support that the committee recommends the introduction of Māori wards in the district for the 2022 triennial election. Ka maumahara tonu tātou ki a rātou, lest we forget. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora. Kia ora.
Heretaunga,
noa e. Whare ora e te piringa whare, wai tēnei e tuake, te uti tēnei o ngā tini whare ngā tumari ngai pāpau, engari te tuake au roto o Heretaunga o te mani anui, roto o Māori. Ko a reira ki ana tēnei e mihi ake. Here everyone, for those who don't know me, I had the opportunity this morning to stand up my own manapurua and listen to the kōrero in regards to the Māori boards that were not supported as such from our nature here just tonight. And to be here this afternoon, to hear the kōrero, different Māori in this whare this afternoon, kei te mihi, kei te mihi. Sandra, love you, always have. Your voice supported our kaupapa of Tiaka, mai rano. Tiaka Whaikura was established in 2007. My husband and I were established it with 4 tamariki from Hāhariki. We grew those numbers to over 500 plus in 14 years, established in Heretaunga. We had tamariki come from Hapa, from Taranaki, from Wanganui, from the Tairāwhiti.
Kia ora rā, Elaine. Mihi ati ki a koe. Okay, committee members. I know we've had a robust discussion and we've had some potential candidates for the new Māori wards once they're created. So if there isn't any further comment, I'm going to...
I know you're looking at me like to keep it brief. Yeah. Kia ora tātou, tēnā koe, Mr. Chair, Atua Jerry, Charles, for opening us. And I tautoko the kōrero that's been spoken. And we might need to add an item to general business because we've got some gaps on this committee that need to be filled. And I think some hands have been put up there. Tautoko that, but that's, with all sincerity, we officially have one seat and I'm going for 3 seats to be going on this committee. This discussion was had in 2017 in workshop, which I participated on, and I wasn't in the formal meeting, and I feel a bit guilty there. I was stuck in Christchurch, and our chair always reminds me that I missed that meeting. So I've got a few points to raise to advocate for our decision item today. It feels a bit weird because I'm not really debating with anybody because it's, I like to think it's a foregone conclusion, but we do know there are those sentiments or voices in our community and even on our council that would raise issue with what we're trying to propose here. So I understand this is going to be a decision for council and we're placing all the expectation on you to carry our whakaaro forward. It would be nice if we had a representative of that committee to raise the voice as a tangata whenua member, but we look for that action to progress and to have a voice on the committee without voting rights, but to raise what we've raised. But no doubt until that time, the expectation is squarely on you councillors to raise our awesome points that we're going to bring. So a lot of the rhetoric I hear that about Māori wards is undemocratic. At present, we have a Māori role and a general role at the national level. Māori have the option available to them, and only Māori has this option to vote for representatives as Māori. And currently in 2018, there were 268,407 people of Māori descent who chose to go on the Māori role as opposed to the general role. And what we're offering here is for those same people who choose to go on the Māori role at the national level to go on the Māori role at the local level. So it's not something new. This is democratic representation. So to those ill-founded comments to say it's undemocratic, if I can quote the words of a well-known uri of Ngāti Kahungunu for his legal expertise and advocacy for the rights of Indigenous people around the world, Moana Jackson, democracy comes from the Latin word demos, meaning for the people. I hope I got that right, but I remember him talking about that a long time ago. So this is about Māori representation for us, for our people. So it's not a geographical representation, it's a concept of representation of us as a distinct Indigenous culture here in Aotearoa, representing, in effect, our culture and our way of life, common behaviours, beliefs, values, symbols. These are often passed on from one generation to the next, an integrated pattern of human knowledge, beliefs, behaviour, shared attitudes, morals, goals, customs, a Māori worldview. And that has a right to exist. It also has a right to exist without prejudice. Unfortunately, we have those prejudices or discrimination in our community, and I don't think we should afford any weight or give too much attention to those prejudices, but move forward in a more democratic and more representative society. My very voice on here, I'm obligated to support Māori wards. our role here in this advisory committee is to look for ways to involve Māori in decision-making. And if we weren't to support Māori wards, it would be dereliction of that duty. Experience for many of us, our voice, there's been umpteen statutes, policies, laws, initiatives, programs designed to improve Māori outcomes. And as one councillor had said, that only Māori can fix Māori. That's part of the solution, but we also need support, obviously, from our treaty partners, in my opinion. But we have a right. We have a right to exist as Māori, not just as another number, as part of aggregated into the general populace, and in many ways aggregated, assimilated with the culture of the population at large. Often the right of Māori to exist as Māori is not afforded in all spaces, nor is it safe in all places, nor does it exist without persecution. Simply being Māori is too hard for many, and I would argue that those who are opposed to Māori wards are essentially opposed to Māori culture existing and has a right to exist in this place. One of the rebuttals or arguments against Māori wards that I've personally come against is that we have those who whakapapa, who are Māori on our council, and that in enough equates to Māori representation. There's no onus on anybody and their whakapapa in the general role to stick up for their background, their nationality, their culture or whakapapa. That's not an expectation. It's great that we have Māori on council, but their whakapapa does not mean that they have to represent that Māori voice. And I want to make that distinct because that has been an ongoing argument in the past. If any councillor's whakapapa is Dutch, Indian, Swiss or German, they do not have that same expectation to represent those sections of society, nor should they. Māori wards give every resident Māori in Hastings the opportunity to vote for someone to present their indigeneity and their culture. And nowhere else in the world can Māori argue for that right to exist. I'm interested in the discussion going forward on how the Māori wards are constructed, and I want to note the risks in this to avoid a practice where unfair political advantage for a particular party or group, or gerrymandering, or a concept known as Simpson's paradox, can disadvantage tanga te whenua and our representation. And that's the discussion going forward. So we represent Māori 27.3% of the Hastings district population. In the electoral roll, we are 16.9% of the population. But I'd just like to show that we're a growing percent of the population in the Māori demographic with their big bubble in the younger age groups, that we're coming up through the ages to represent what is the non-Māori population, where there's a more stable, I guess, section of society. The Indigenous peoples and ethnic minorities often have this kind of, that shape. But this population at the younger age group are coming through. So it makes sense to get ahead of the game now and capture that representation in the political context. I've probably got some other points I'll forget, but I'm going to finish off with what I remember from growing up in Hastings. While I was at school, I can't remember if it was Parkville Primary or Hastings Intermediate. It wasn't Te Aute, but it was at one of those other Pākehā schools. I learned about the 12 apostles of Hastings. I actually did a research project. The aristocrats, the gentry, oligarchy, the Tanners and co. They settled Hastings up there. And I did this research project, and you know, you find out they bought all these wonderful things, ideas, tools, and methods. These men created were found in Hastings and implied they were great men who did us all a favour. Well, I'm not sure when I unpick that maybe when I went to Te Autau or later, but they weren't as great. That story, that reality is wrong. They actually committed a fraud of harassing and bullying Māori out of their land. Māori, our culture, our history, our practices have been underrepresented in Hastings. Getting that narrative right would be added by our opportunity not only to represent our own stories accurately and meaningfully, but also by our people being afforded the opportunity to elect their voice. And I think that's what we're supporting here today. Kia ora.
Look, I know that it's got to go through a significant sort of policy and that regime. What I did want to just make some commentary around in regards to that, because I know that was certainly an issue for the Napier Hui this morning, and that was the representation sitting around the table. And when Tania talked to that representation, you know, we have our local taiwhenua, we have our settlement entities, and I think Tania also, when I talked to Piri, had also been endorsed by Mana Ahuriri as well to be the voice. So our Ngāti Kahungunu, you know, Ngāti Pāhawera, and Maunga Haruru, I mean, they will exercise their own treaty relationship, and that was their response to their offer of membership on this committee. Most, if not all of us, are marae people. I see Ruahapia, I see Waipati, I see Motio, I see Waimarama, I see Kauraniki, I see Pukiau. I see all our marae's faces here today. And just, I want that recorded for going forward, in the sense that when someone who, you know, because part of the risk was around a due process of consultation with Māoridom, I am advocating that this has been a journey for Hastings District Council, as I said. This dialogue, as Mike pointed out, has been going on for a number of years, and this has now come to fruition. And the voice that has recommended this to the council is not a lot voice. It is the voice of those that you would be required to engage with anyway. And yes, there may be dissenting voices out there, and we open that opportunity for all of those people to have their say as well. But I can tell you that with the faces sitting in this whare now, we are representing a good proportion of our people and recommending that the council consider Māori wards seriously. And it goes to all those issues around the treaty partnership and realisation, and where we're going in the future. Because, like I said, I don't sit here without the hope of thinking Hastings District Council doesn't lead the way in embracing things Māori and doing all those things. Yes, we have our ups and downs, but I like to think that we could have, with the expertise and the goodwill and the people we have sitting around here, that we can advance this and advance our whole community and take advantage of all the opportunities that are out there. So given the silence on the lack of red lights on, now we've got Mare on, the next candidate.
Te tahi e tautoko i au i ngā waha kōrero, te tautoko hia me rā, e rā te tino take kia tutaki ai pai te hia te moimoia o tātou nei whānau i roti te rohi nei. He mōtini māku. So I'm going to move straight to the kōrero ke. We've spoken. So I want to move to the motion to recommend to Council that the committee recommends the introduction of Māori wards into the district for the 2022 triennial election, Mr. Chair.
Have a second.
Second. I'll second. We'll all second.
Look, Tania, we'll take Tania as the seconder. We didn't want to compromise Geraldine in a preemptive vote when it goes to the council.
I just thought it was symbolic.
Symbolic? Very well, so be it. We've moved Mare, and seconded Councillor Travers. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Anybody not in favour? Anybody abstaining? No. Of course you can.
So as councillors, it's on our shoulders to ultimately make the decision. And it may be thought that by sitting around this table today, as well as in the future, that we have two bites at the cherry. Today's meeting is very like Parliament. All acts come before the Parliament for a number of readings. So the vote today asks, is this an idea worth progressing towards the full council for consideration? So to me, that's asking me, do you believe in democracy? And I sit around this table because I believe passionately in democracy, which means the voice of the people being heard. So I had great pleasure in seconding option 1 because it advocates the referral of the proposition to introduce Māori wards to the Hastings District Council. That is not to prejudge or predetermine my vote for the future, but it is saying this is an idea which is worthy of debate because it's an idea whose time has come.
Kia ora tātou, e hara au te tangata noho nū I tēnei whare. Hoi no me mihi ka tika kia koutou te marea ngā tini whanaunga ko hara mai nei tēnei rā, ki te tautoko I tēnei kaupapa nui whakahirahira. Tēnā rā tātou te komiti Māori o tēnei kaunihera. O tira ki aku hoa kai kaunihera ko hara mai nei, ki te whakarongo ki ngā kōrero I tēnei rangi. Tautoko ahau I ngā kōrero a Geraldine I tēnei wā. We had the opportunity to wānanga the proposition, which is now a motion that will go to council at some date, I think 8. So, yeah, pai te rongo ake ki ngā kōrero, ko tonoa ngā kai kaunihera hara mai nei te whakarongo, hei hāpai nei tō kori whakaro, hei te wā whakatau. So, yeah, I think that, you know, the councillors, including myself, have been fortunate to hear the kōrero today. Just want to say a couple of things. Nō te tangata Māori noho nei ki tēnei kaunihera. And ko mao ko henari tēnei wā. The last council, it was Jacoby. Who? Adrian Pierce. Yeah. Me tahi atu I ro te ngātau. So, I mean, we've heard kōrero about te tiriti o Waitangi. He uri tēnei no Harawira mahikai te tātere. Harawira ka moe mātamaki, and they had Haura te tātere, who married Keita Kiriama, who had Mere Hoka, who married Eruere Kershaw, who had Rumatiki Kershaw, who married Tukotahi Tū Tamariki Jakitai, who had Te Rongomau Jakitai, who's my grandfather, D Company Māori Battalion, who married Te Haumihia Te Whaiti, who had my mother, Marama Jakitai, married Eruere Baba, Koau. So 181 years. Mohi au ki te whakapapa, because that was our ancestors that signed the treaty. So we know intimately the treaty and the obligations that our tupuna signed up to, because we tautoko. Harawira was the younger brother, Taino Chakitai. Chakitai, you know, he understood too. He sent his younger brother to sign. So we understood, hey, that we might be at this point at some stage in its evolution. And we're here today. And so tēnā koe mai, I o kōrero, e tikana i rā kōrero. And that we are in a different world than we were even a couple of years ago. You know, things have changed. Ne? Things have changed, and hearing those stats, right? Okay. So yeah, things are changing. But all I want to say is that we and Councillor Ollie understand that being a minority on a council, it can be has its challenges, but it also brings plenty of positives to any council that have Māori on it. So the proposition of having more Māori is something that I got to be careful what I say here, but it's something that that councillors need to consider, eh? Because you know, how do we, you know, and Nanaia, you know, I guess her foresight is really mo te āpopo. I mean, me and Henare and Peleti are here today, pehera te āpopo o tēnei kaunihira. So I think, yeah, you know, having an avenue for Māori to be elected onto the council, well, there are some benefits there. So, me waiho ake au, kora, kei piki taiapa, yeah, but yeah, we got more meetings to have. But mihi nei kia koutou, ki ngā whakaaro o tātou nei tupuna. Wāroa rātou e whawhai ana mo tēnei āhuatanga, no reira kua koe ke ki te wā. Koe nei tātou ki te wā, and tomorrow we will be having the discussion and the decision making. So kia ora tātou, nā runga no i te hohonu tango e nei kōrero, kua puta mai tēnei rā he rawe ki ngā taringa, tēnā, no reira huri no tēnā koutou, tēnā hui tata. Ea koe, Henare.
Tēnā. Tino reka te kōrero anei te rongo o te mate nui te rangi nera. Tino reka. Kia ora tātou e te iwi. I love your presence here. I haven't really got much to say. It's more in the actions than the words. But 5 terms now I've sat at this table, preceded by Matua Bob Timu, Keriana Pule, Adrian Pierce, Jacoby Pule, my uso here, he married Ngāti Pro, so he's halfway in there. Baden, and of course, in Māori. And in all honesty, at times, right from the very beginning, it's been a very lonely journey. I'm not asking for sympathy or that the tears would all of a sudden cascade down your cheeks in sympathy, although it would be nice. But it has been a lonely journey. When I first traversed the hello turf that is the Kroni Here or Heretaunga, I didn't even know councillors got paid, to be honest. I came here because I think I had a benevolent heart and just wanted to make a difference. And they said, "I'll sign this," and I thought, "Oh, we get paid, do we?" Wow. So, but it has been a very lonely journey. It hasn't been easy. When you first came in here, nobody helped you. No one helped you. You just had to find out where everything fit and who did what and how, and you just had to get in there and just beaver away, and that's how it's been. But I can honestly say this council, even though we don't always have a unanimous consensus around the table, This is the most united council I have ever had the privilege of sitting with. And I'm not urinating in your pocket, kora matua, but yeah, you are the best me I've ever sat with. You are. Simply because, not because of your acumen or your academia, but because of your motherly heart. You know, you're everywhere. If I go there, you've either been there or you're coming. So for that reason, the cavalry has arrived. It's time. It's time to go to the next step. Don't fear it. Whatever it looks like, don't fear it. Embrace it. I think God has had a hand in this. He's knocked off a few warts here and there, and sometimes when we're stubborn, he'll use a chisel. When you're really stubborn like me, he pulls out a jackhammer and knocks off all those rough edges. We're ready. We're ready for whatever the future looks like. This council, these people are ready to receive. They're ready to receive. And I can honestly say, when you walk in that door, God resides in this chamber. There's no two ways about it. God resides in this chamber. And it has to be driven by God Almighty. It has to be. Get the humanness out of it. Get your egos and leave them at the door. Sit here with a serving heart that will not take no for an answer, and it'll serve, get beat up, get abused, get loved and embraced, and you come back and do it all again the next day. That's what it's all about. It's a privilege to be here. I totally support the motion on the floor. I have to apologise, I can't be here tomorrow, but I don't think it really matters. We have another one. You know, we got Takoto rangatai sitting tomorrow, and I want to be at that table amongst those families. And that's where I'll be, and that's just an extension of what's happening here. Yeah, love you everybody, God bless. Thank you for that.
I'd just like to say thank you to everybody for being here today, for all of us being present today. To me, listening about 181 years, it's like a proposal. We've had 181 years of engagement. Now it's time to have a wedding. So,
Amen.
Wedding becomes trust. So it's all about trusting us. And to me, I feel that's what's been lacking. Is that it's a fear or whatever it is. So let's get it on together and have a party.
Amen. Amen.
Nā tika tonu ka tūake tēnei nā ki roti tēnei whai. O tira he pehi kawake nei ki te tepu, i whakaitia e koutou, e hika. Ka mau tonu mai rā ki te rākau, ki kawe ake a pōpō, ki whakatakato ai. Ki Uncle Jerry, nā nui i kōrero tia mai rā, ki te toi huareo, e hika. Tai e tātou te tirohia ki te tine me te mano ki roti tōna kōtahitanga. Heke tonu mai rā, a kia tātou ngā uri whakatipu o te wakatapu o tāki timu. Tēnei anu i a mātou ko tai ake nei. O tira, tūake tēnei tau mata kōrero i raro ai ngā tihi maunga mai pari tūki tūraki rai. E hika, tānia, pare kawa e noho ana ki rungi a koutou, e tika tonu me tangihia nei tātou. Nā nui pōkiri tia mai rā ngā kaupapa mo tātou, e hika o ngā tika hunga. Kui anō ka hoki mai rā ki a tātou te hunga, tēnei te mihi, tēnei te mihi. E te tuatahi, ki a koe, Robin, e hika, tauri, o te rangi nau wāriki, tēnei te mihi. Te whanaunga, tauri, o poka tutu, tēnei te mihi. E hika, o mātou keke, Uncle, e te uri o te rangi koe anake, te whatiakuti, te hapu, tēnei te mihi. O tira, ki ngā hapu, kairoti tēnei whare. Tēnei whare a tāhua. O tira, me he mea ka putati ki tō tātou marae, e hika, e noho, pōhara, rawa kore, e tohu tēnei kia tātou, kaha tātou tēnei wā. Hei manaki tipu o tēnei whenua. I hiana hau kia hoki atu ki tēnei waiata, haka rānei, i tito ai tō tātou rangatira a piri. Pipiri hono ngā marae kure ngau. Te tōtara wahinu rua. Pipiri hono ngā marae kure ngau ki te tōtara nui ki a te ahurangi. Ngana ngā rangi tāne tūpai, whakauru au moko e nguru nei. E tūkahumunu no wai ngarawa, e ki ana no te karauna anake, aupoko ko hua te mataku e. Ngā tihi maunga, one tapu, pārai, mānia, ākau, moana, waipu, pairangi. I oranga wairua, i oranga tinana, o tātou, ngā uri whakatipu o tēnei whenua, mō ake tonu atu. Nāna noi waihotia mai tēnei kōrero. He toi whakairo, he manata. Sampa hao.
Bye.
Tēnā koe, JB. Anne, did you want to?
I don't think there's much I could add, actually, Robin, so thank you for that. But just to say I'm looking forward to tomorrow's council meeting and the process that follows after that. And yeah, thank you.
Good. Well, kia ora tātou. Tautoko ngā mihi ki a koutou e hara mai nei I rungi te karanga o te kaupapa. He aha, ai, kia kimi hia e aratika, he huarahi pai, kia kimi hia heiwhi te karanga o ngai Māori, kia puta ki roto I tēnei o tātou nei whai. No reira I rungi tērā, tēnei te mihi atu. We've got one kaupapa before we end our hui. And Uncle, unfortunately, you didn't get to our planning session that we had scheduled because of your birthday. But what the council did want to acknowledge is, of course, your ongoing contribution to supporting council cultural activities for our committee and for you getting that taumata 80 years. So I've asked our mayors to present that on the committees and on the council's behalf.
Kia ora. Tēnā koutou katoa, nau mai haere mai, whānau, hapu, iwi representatives from all around Kahungunu. Can I just say we are proud and honoured as a council to take the korero that we've heard today to a council room tomorrow. We've actually got probably 10, and can I acknowledge and thank our councillors that have come in today to listen, because there's no way that we could have repeated the messages that we heard and got the true sense for our councillors. So thank you for your attendance today. Elena, we've got a new representative to Heretaunga Takoto coming up. Looking forward to having you on board, mate. And you know, Noel, you've raised some really, really good challenges for us, because this joint committee has been joint in this form for a long time, and you've raised some ways for us to change that, and I look forward to us looking at smarter and ways to get more Māori on Heretaunga Takoto Noa, Mr. Chair, and that is, you know, a different model that what we're looking at here. So we've had some great suggestions, and it will be an honour and a privilege for our council tomorrow to hear and receive your recommendations, and for us to be able to, you know, we're not afraid of this mahi. You know, this is to us is like, you know, bring it on. You know, this is just, you know, we're not saying it's yeah, there's no time, and yeah, we haven't got enough time for consultation, and it's too hard to get it in the time frames and the architecture and the framework and all that stuff local government and governments talk about all the time. It's actually, we've just got to get on and we've got to make some decisions. So you led us today, you've given us your korero, and you've told us, you know, where you want to head. So thank you, ngā mihi nui. But it now gives me great pleasure to acknowledge our wonderful kaumātua Papa Jerry, and to acknowledge his very, very special birthday. He only looks about 60, not 80, but we just love him. He's our friend. He forgot to invite me to his party, but I'll let him off on that. He said, "You didn't see you on Saturday night, Sandra." I said, "I'm still waiting for my invitation. Where was the party?" But no, Papa, we just love having you part of our whānau. You know, you just are always with us. You always bring our cultural values into this chamber every time you walk with those. So, and that means so much to us. And while we've got some wonderful, wonderful mana whenua whānau around us all the time, you are so special. And I don't know what's in here, but this is a very special gift, and we hope you enjoy it. It's heavy, and it's going to take some time. And thank you for everything you do for us.
Apano,
What? Mahura hai whakakapi tā tātou hui. E kai amuri aki tēnei o tātou nei hui, ke mahura, mena hia e tai o koutou ki anō, ki a kōrero anō. Engari, ka hoa te rākau ki a koe anko, hai whakakapi.
Apologies, Mr. Chair. I'd like to raise a urgent item or agenda item. I said general business, but perhaps we can raise it under urgent or minor item. Take your pick. But I do think it's
urgent matter.
Yeah, well, I guess, you know, we're talking about the process of Māori participating in decision making. I'm talking about a decision, or I'm talking about a matter that's important to us regarding water. If I were less than 5 minutes is all I need.
What do you expect to get out of the...
What do I expect?
Do you want to raise the issue with the committee around, what was the kaupapa?
Water. Tank.
You just want to talk?
Yeah. So quite often I'm defaulted as any issues on water, or what does Niall think, or the Taiao, what do I think? So that's why I think it's urgent and I'm bringing it to this table, because I want to give an update to committee members and the tank process and calling for evidence on the May the 7th, and hence its urgency. And a matter I think, and I have raised before, and it's sort of kicked around here and there, but I'd like to give an update on where we feel. Apologies on not letting you know in advance, but I've been very busy. So I thought our last discussion on tank further submissions, and it's good that others are in the room here because this relates to all our waterways, that we had a good meeting. Myself, Māori wasn't there, but in this process on articulating tangata whenua views for our waterways, Ngāti Kahungunu Incorporated, Tai Whenua o Heretaunga and Heretaunga Tamatea Settlement Trust have been working in a collaborative fashion, and also working with other tangata whenua reps and other interests on our waterways. So if you don't know, people, please get your evidence if you're submitted into Regional Council on your waterways and articulate your practices that have been impacted, whether positively or negatively. So I thought we had a good discussion previously in the Mayor's office with councillors and manager and planning officer in regard, but walked away thinking we had more in common. But what I want to raise, I was disappointed in the official further submission from Hastings District Council that actually opposed much of what Ngāti Kahungunu and other tangata whenua sought in terms of our cultural relationship and our interest with waterways. And I want that recorded on record. That's what I want to get out of this, Mr. Chair, that post that discussion, if you read the actual further submission, Hastings District Council opposed most of what we said. We provide relevant and much needed free cultural expertise in my role and people that I employ and those other organisations employ and others to provide that free expertise. And in an informal meeting of this committee, I raised the need, I thought, for Hastings to review the Heretaunga model and Heretaunga aquifer reports, that there are some unanswered questions that compromise our culture and our relationship with our waters, our aquifer and our spring-fed streams. That disappointment or the rationale for opposing, which I think is tangata whenua, was based on economic assessment. We provided cultural expertise. The economic assessment was an assessment by economists. And I think that's an unfair imbalance that, at the very least, provided meaningful discussion on why the economic interests were put above our cultural interest, and notwithstanding that, our cultural interest also talks about our cultural commerce. So it's not culture and environment versus the economy, it's basically, it can be economy versus the economy if you want to have that discussion. But the new framework for national policy statement for managing fresh water sets up te mana o te wai as a compulsory value that we have to recognise the mana and the mauri of our water bodies first and foremost. So, I want it on the record. I feel, and this is a personal view, tested, if you get a hydrologist, I think that some of the policy direction for managing our fresh water will contravene the Hastings District's own water strategy. And I think it would be worthwhile not to only have this on the strategy, but for Hastings District Council to engage a hydrologist and ask the question whether the mana and the well-being of our waterways, particularly our aquifer, will be compromised. Sorry to leave with such a heavy whakaaro, but I'm not just here to be representative, it's to bring issues and you did say I'll bring some new challenges here. This is my third one probably in the week there, Sandra, but this is potentially the substantive one and more important. If not by the 7th of May, where evidence is due, and I understand the timelines, we need to have a proper discussion in the next stages at the very least, because this issue is not going to go away, and I have real fears from what's transpired in the last 20 years in the management or mismanagement of our groundwater. And so, sorry to put the damper or raise these issues here, but that's my job, and that's what I do. Kia ora.
Thank you, Niall. It's difficult to respond. So what we will need to do is that ask Nigel and James to provide some advice and work with you in terms of those concerns that have been raised, so that and I guess the time frame or urgency around what needs to be done, and that can be circulated to the committee. Okay.
We'll just respond with, we've got 7th of May, and at the very least, I want that on the record. Notwithstanding, I've been bringing this for over a year, and trying, with all honesty, to go through proper channels, to have discussions meaningful, and I feel it's been minimised, to be honest. And with the 7th of May of deadline, we'd be lucky if I had the time to engage on that. But I'll be lying if I don't put the expectation and responsibility back on council.
You've put it on, and we've put it on the boss or on the CEO to respond. He's heard what you've said. It will potentially mean you need to send some information through, but as I say, that can be worked through, and if need be, circulated to the committee. That is a tight time frame, but like all time frames, just provides the challenges. Nō reira, mihi atu ki a koe, Niall. Is there no other urgent matters? Then I will hand the rākau back to you, Uncle Jerry, to conclude our hui.
Haere mai te toki, hauwi e, hui e, tāki. Kia ora tata, ko hea henare, kei hea tō. Oh. He minute. Okay. And then hoati ta rākau ki a koe e tiare he kapi ki tēnei tō tātai.
Come Kia